Namaste everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Seeker of Truth, and today, for the first time in our YouTube channel, we are going to do a book review. The name of the book, as you can see in the screen, is Prisoners of Geography: 10 Maps That Will Tell You Everything You Need to Know About Global Politics by Tim Marshall. So, without wasting further time, let us dive into our topic. So, first of all, I would like you to introduce you to the author of this book. The person you see in the picture is the author, Tim Marshall. Now, for people who don't know who Tim Marshall is, he is a British journalist, author, and he specializes in international affairs and diplomacy. So this book is just one of his works. There are multiple other books that he has written, and I would recommend you all to go through those books to read them, and we will definitely do a review of those books as well in our future videos. Now let us talk about why we should read this book, the importance of this book. Now, judging by the book cover and the name, all of you may have guessed it that it talks about geopolitics, about international relations. But unlike other books of geopolitics, this book is different because Tim Marshall, he covers an area of geopolitics that is generally not discussed about, a view of geopolitics that is generally avoided, and that is geography. Now, geography sounds very simple: mountains, rivers, geography, whatever comes in our mind. But truth is that it, no matter how simple it may sound, the landscapes, it has shaped human history. It has shaped human civilizations. It has shaped societies, culture, how humans have developed their culture. It is because of geography, whatever geography they live in. And we will understand this better when we discuss this further in our video. But one thing we need to keep in mind is that this idea is generally rejected by many scholars of geopolitics because when we agree that we are prisoners of geography, we are agreeing that we are prisoners of Mother Nature, that we are limited by Mother Nature. There is a popular belief that because we have human beings have advanced so much in technology, we have conquered nature, we have bridged the barriers that nature had created for us. So so by agreeing on this, we think that our powers, our decisions of human beings is limited by nature. So that's why this theory is generally rejected. Now, we are going to touch briefly about this book. We are not going to go in detail, and I'm going to cover three topics that are mentioned in the book. That is Russia, China, and India and Pakistan. But before we do, I would like you to look into this map to have a general understanding of which part of the world these countries are located, so that even though the borders are not drawn properly, but just to have a better understanding where these countries are. And let us start with the topic. First is Russia. So Russia, as we know, is the largest country in the world in terms of size, but Russia wasn't always this powerful, this large. The concept of Russia dates back to 9th century, and it was just a loose confederation. Back then, it was just a loose confederation of Eastern Slavic tribes in Eastern Europe, and they lived in what is now Ukraine. And later on, after the Mongol invasion, they shifted the capital to what is now Moscow. And under people like Ivan the Great, Ivan the Terrible, and Peter the Great, the emperor or czars of Russia, they expanded their empire. They conquered a lot of territory, and in a way, they made their empire as one of the largest empires in the world, alongside the British Empire and the Mongol Empire. And I would like you to know about this person. His name is Peter the Great, and there's something called as Will of Peter the Great. Now, those who don't know who Peter is, he was an emperor, a czar of Russia, and because he was a good administrator, he expanded his empire. He's called as the Great, just like Alexander the Great or Cyrus the Great. Now, there is something called as Will of Peter the Great. It is nothing but a doctrine that he wrote, political doctrine that discusses Russia's geopolitical ambitions and what the future leaders, the future czars of Russia do after he goes away. And he mentions there that Russia should expand and conquer two regions of the world, which is Constantinople, Istanbul, and India, our nation. Why so? Because he mentions that whoever controls these two parts of the world, they in a way control the whole world. Why so? Because most of the trade that happens in the whole world passes through these regions. For example, Constantinople, which is Istanbul now in Turkey, this city is a transcontinental city that lies, a part of it lies in Asia, a part of it lies in Europe, and most of the land trade that took place in history, for example, trade coming from India, China going to Europe, and vice versa, it happens through this city. And even the Silk Route, for example, the trade route that connected China with rest of Europe, this city was possibly the most important city in the entire Silk Road, more important than cities like Samarkand or even Beijing, for that matter. And other countries, India, because India, as we know, has access to the Indian Ocean, and whoever, let's say, has military control of the entire Indian Ocean, they can affect the global supply trade. Thus, the trade route that happens through the sea, a lot of it happens from the Indian Ocean. For example, the trade that happens between China and Europe, or Southeast Asia and Europe, or Africa, it has to pass through the Indian Ocean, whether be it from the Red Sea or happening all the way from the Cape of Good Hope, it has to pass through the Indian Ocean. So Russia, we see that Russians had fought a lot of wars with the Ottoman Turks to for the fight because the Russians wanted to take the Constantinople, the Ottoman capital, and therefore they fought many wars against them. And the same Russians also campaigned through Central Asia to reach India, present-day Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. They fought with multiple Turkic tribes, defeated them, conquered them, and they kept on expanding until they reached the borders of Afghanistan. And this is during the reign of the Tsar Empire, that is before the 1917 revolution, when the communists took over Russia. After the communists took over Russia, when the Second World War happened, and when the Second World War ended, and when the Cold War began, Turkey by that time had become a member of NATO. So Istanbul which was now in Turkey, was a member of NATO now. Therefore, Russia had dropped its plan of conquering Constantinople anymore. Now it focused much on towards India, because it was very close to India at that time, and as we know, India and Russia had good ties. So if India and Russia simply shared a border, Russia would have built ports, supply of shipping materials would have happened, and there would have Russian presence would have been there in Indian soil, and they would have gained access to the Indian ports and gain access to the Indian Ocean. But for that, they need to border India, and therefore they waged war in Afghanistan. That's just one reason why they waged war. They wanted Afghanistan to be part of Russia so that they can border India. But unfortunately, the American-backed and Pakistani-backed Mujahideens in Afghanistan foiled Russia's plan, and Russia was eventually defeated. And today, as Russia broke up, as the Soviet Union broke up, Russia, it seems to no longer have that dream of conquering Constantinople or India. So this was about Russia. Moving on to China, our neighbor. It is an aspiring superpower, and it, I should say, is a fearless country, because, for example, Pakistan, if India threatens Pakistan, if India does a airstrike in Pakistan, let's say the Balakot, Pakistanis get scared, right? We observe that they get scared easily if we threaten them, because that's the level of power that India has gained. But that doesn't seem to apply to China. The same thing doesn't happen with China, and we see that China is even not afraid of the US. It is not afraid of the US, and we notice that China is very much a confident country. It is not afraid of anyone, so to say. It is very confident about itself. But why it is so? Why does China behave in that manner? That is because China has conquered certain natural barriers that was hurdle for China centuries ago, and because it has conquered those territories, no one, even the Americans, can't do anything about it. For example, let's talk about Tibet. Now, Tibet is a very burning issue internationally. Dalai Lama, as we know, lives in India, and many of us think that why was Tibet conquered by China? What was the reason? Why did the Chinese wanted to conquer Tibet? They conquered Tibet because many of us don't know three of China's main river, which is the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and the Mekong River. It starts from Tibet. The river begins from Tibet. It flows from Tibet and goes all the way to China. And all these three rivers have been, especially the Yellow and the Yangtze River, have been the foundations of Chinese civilization. All civilizations have been founded near rivers, such as Nile River, where the Egyptian civilization was founded, the Indus River Valley, where the Indus River, where the Indus Valley civilization was founded. Same applies here. And if China had not conquered Tibet, someone else, let's say India or Russia, may have taken advantage of that. They have taken control over Tibet, and would have possibly, maybe just like what now China is doing, it is building dams over Arunachal Pradesh, in Tibet, rivers that flows through Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. We would have done the same thing. We would have built dams there, cut off the water supply if they had misbehaved with us. But China was smart. They conquered it before anyone could conquer it. And one thing we need to know about China is that they're not concerned about democracy. As we know, China is not a democracy, it's a one party dictatorship. And China believes more in economic growth and unity than democratic principles. And when will China fall? Eventually, and all empires have to fall, all superpower regional powers do fall. America is falling now. China will fall one day, but when will China fall? What will cause the downfall of this huge country? That is when China will suffer from economic turmoil, right? If almost every day there, because China censors lot of information, most people outside China don't know, but it's a fact that almost every day some or the other protests are happening across different parts of the country. China, because we know, is a huge country and has lot of population, lot of people living there. And if you look at the population, if just imagine if all the people, the entire population, decided to revolt against the government, even the government can't do anything. Even government has a limitation, but the government is keeping the people satisfied by providing them good living standards, by providing them all economic necessities that is needed. And therefore the people generally don't complain about their economic issues. But once that starts to happen, no one can do anything. Even Chinese government can't do anything, and eventually China may start to break up during that point of time. Now, moving on to our last topic, India and Pakistan. As we know, now if you look at the current situation of both the countries, because ever since 1947, when both countries started their journey, if you look at both the countries today, we see that India is an emerging superpower. It is in the top 5 list of largest economies in the world, and despite being now the most populated country in the world, we are still an emerging power. We still are growing economically, unlike, let's say, China, that has come to a halt because of the COVID, and the West, we know, is in decline. In America, the economic condition is terrible. And but if you look at Pakistan, on the other hand, Pakistan's economy is apparently bankrupt. It is terrible, essentially. And India is politically more stable despite having so much diversity. Pakistan, on the other hand, is on the verge of breakup. There is insurgency in Balochistan, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, and even in POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, there are protests that demanding azadi from Pakistan itself, which is sounds interesting because way back in 2019-18, people in Indian Kashmir were protesting against India, demanding azadi, and these protesters, in a way, all terrorists and Kashmir demanding for freedom from India were funded by Pakistan. Now it's the Pakistan occupied Kashmir that is seeing protest and Azadi. They apparently want Azadi from Pakistan right now. So this is the condition of both the countries right now. Coming to Kashmir, one of the most heated debates between the two countries. Now, what happens if, let's say, whole of POK comes under India? Let's say whole of Kashmir, including Aksai Chin or Shaksam Valley, which is now under China, becomes a part of India. What happens then? If if that happens, India will gain access to Central Asia. It will border Central Asian country like Tajikistan, for example. And once it shares border, there will be trading activities happening between the two countries, not just with Central Asian countries, even with Russia. There will be land trade happening between Russia. There will be a new economic corridor will be opened that will connecting Russia, Central Asian countries with India. It will be beneficial for India. Pakistan, on the other hand, it won't benefit them if they take whole of Kashmir. The only thing it will benefit them is that it will solve their river water issues, the river water disputes they have with India. It would only solve minor problems. And what about future relations between the two countries? What will happen in the future? Because this is the condition we talked about, the condition of both the countries now. What happens in the future? Now, Tim Marshall himself has said neither country wants the other one around, which is true. For example, Pakistan, they have this idea of Ghazwa-e-Hind. They don't want India to rise, they want India to be conquered under the sword of Islam. And India, as we know, we have an ambition called Akhand Bharat. We want Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka to become part of India once again, to become dharmic once again. So this is the intention of both the countries. So apparently, yes, we can say that neither country wants the other one around. And coming to the conclusion, all world leaders, be it Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, Joe Biden, Xi Jinping, President Erdogan of Turkey, Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, or the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, all of their decisions are limited by geography. Their decisions are shaped by geography. And geography is something that has influenced human society, culture, wars, and peace. Be it the Israel-Palestinian conflict, the Tibet issue, the Korean Peninsula, the conflict that happens there. All of this is shaped by geography, and I believe this is an aspect of geopolitics that people should discuss. We should not be ignorant because we think that Mother Nature is superior to us. We should be open minded and look into different perspectives. So, with this, we come to a conclusion. We come to the end of our video. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications, and see you. Hope to meet you soon. Thank you.